So I recently just watched Wicked City is an okay anime movie. It's a schlocky, occasionally frustrating, but also sometimes surprisingly beautiful action erotic thriller based on a series of Japanese novels I've yet to read. The film follows Blackguard Taki, who teams up with a beautiful demon by the name of Makie to protect an important VIP who is supposed to ensure the peace of both worlds. The plot is simply there to pave the way for some really well animated action scenes, salacious escapades, and some fantastical horror segments. There are a few revelations here and there, but outside of an odd way of handling a twist, you'll piece together everything really quickly, and thankfully the pacing for the film is never dull. I like Taki as the protagonist, as despite being a man's man, he wasn't invincible and actually had to overcome quite a few of the fights he fought in. He was likable, had a good sense of humor, and his growth after meeting Makie was really nice. Makie was easily my favorite character, despite the film sometimes sadly shafting her. She was just flat out badass, but I liked that she was never a hard ass and was deep down very loving and caring. The only character I straight up hated was Mayart, the old perverted man Taki and Makie had to protect. He was just obnoxious. I never found him amusing. He had a few moments at the end of the film where he was a bit more tolerable, but he is the one thing that truly taints the film and prevents me from fully recommending it. The villains were all one note and only existed to stand in the way of our heroes to prevent them from fulfilling the peace treaty. Outside of seeing themselves as better than humans, they didn't really have any motivations for what they were doing outside of being just bad guys. While this is a hyper-violent film, it's not as action-packed as you would expect it to be. Oh, don't get me wrong, there are some really great fight scenes, but they are a bit more spaced out than I wanted them to be. But when we do get them, they are brutal, over the top, and as flashy as can be. The film is actually more focused a lot of the time on scenes of erotic tear and sometimes genuinely sweet and sensual moments. Now thankfully most of these fit the plot, although there are a few that were just there that just made me hate Mayart more. Animation-wise, the film looks pretty darn great and high budget. Well, that is if you're able to actually withstand how many scenes there are of constantly strobing lights throughout the film. Seriously, there are so many of them, but past that, it's a great looking anime, and I get why they showed it in theaters in Japan. Sound-wise, the dub is actually mostly pretty darn solid, outside of, yet again, Mayart, who was just your typical annoying old man voice. Everyone else did a good enough job, but sadly outside the final battle song that sounded like something from Castlevania, the soundtrack was lacking unfortunately. And with all that said, Wicked City is a flawed ride, and I can't recommend it to most people unfortunately. But it isn't bad, it's just sadly not all that great, even though it really could have been with some simple changes. As it stands, if you like erotic action horror and want a breezy old school anime to watch, there are far worse choices out there, but there are also plenty of better ones as well. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to help support the channel, please consider sharing the video with a friend or checking out my Patreon linked in the description below. I want to give a huge thank you to not only the show's patrons, but also my good friend Orionite for making the wonderful Punish Neat rig that you'll see in the thumbnails and in the videos like right now. All their social media accounts will be linked in the description. If you have any comments, questions, or recommendations, leave them in the comments as I read and reply to everything. Until next time, this is Thierry Williamson signing off until the next video. See you guys!